Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Laura Rose and today I'm pissed at you guys. The Name of the Wind is probably the most requested book for my channel. Everybody's like, read the Kingkiller Chronicles, read The Name of the Wind, Patrick Rothfuss, blah blah blah. Really? None of you could have mentioned to me that the series isn't done yet? Why? You're so cruel. So, if you couldn't tell, this is going to be my review of The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. It will be a spoiler-free review, so if you haven't read the book yet, feel free to keep watching my video, and if you have, keep watching too. The Name of the Wind is an epic fantasy, and it is a traditional hero's journey, and the hero learns magic at school. The reason that this book really worked for me, and why I think it worked for a lot of people, is because it's a story within a story. When we first see our main character, Quoth, we see him as an innkeeper named Coat. He's in the inn with his apprentice Bast, and we kind of get the feeling that something bad is happening within the country. The roads are really dangerous. There's no one coming to the inn except for a couple regulars. While all this is happening, we get the feeling that the innkeeper isn't really who he seems. Throughout these first chapters, we learn a little bit about him and see that he's got this face that he puts on in front of a crowd, and then there's something like mystical and magical going on behind the scenes. And then the chronicler comes into the bar and it recognizes him and says, I want to tell your story. The bulk of the book is Quoth telling the story of his life to the chronicler. And the reason that this is really interesting is because it's kind of like Quoth is this mystical legend and this hero, the kind of person you hear stories about, and what you're seeing is him telling how those stories came to be. The style of this actually switches from third person to first person, and it works really well for the book. It's a great way of differentiating the past and the story that he's telling and the present. Through the book, we learn about Coat the innkeeper, aka Quoth, aka a million other names, which are really important in this book, The Name of the Wind. Quoth grew up as an Edema Ra, which is a band of troopers. Because he's on the road, he has a really eclectic lifestyle, which allows him to learn everything from performing to surviving in the woods to academics. This happens because they pick up people on the road that travel with them for a while, and one of these people ends up being his mentor, Ben, who teaches him everything that you would learn in school, physics, mathematics, calculus, but he also teaches him magic. So there are kind of two magic systems going on within the book. Sympathy, which is somewhat based on physics, and they have like a very intricate, complex way of how energy is transferred, and it's kind of something like everyone can learn. But then there's this other layer of magic on top of it, which is more mythical. As a young boy, Quoth suffers a terrible tragedy. This makes him want to learn that true magic. It really gives him this desire to learn about what happened to him. So that really pushes him throughout the whole story, and he wants to go to university and visit the archives, aka a giant library, to find out as much information as he can about what happened in his childhood. He ends up living on the streets of the city, and this really changes the character from this happy-go-lucky kid to this hardcore fighter, basically doing everything he can to survive. Eventually, he finally gets the mindset that he needs to get out and be the person that he wants to be. So he makes his way to university. The rest of the story, we watch him as he goes through classes, as he struggles with his professors and his money problems, as he meets girls and gets into a lot of trouble. And we start to learn about how he earns his infamy. Every now and then in the book, we pull back to present day and we see the characters in the book as Quoth is telling the story to them. This really creates a great mystery because you want to know how the boy you're learning about in the story becomes the person in the present day story. Just the plot description is a freaking mouthful. Quoth is the main character of the book. He is who the story is about, and he himself is telling the story. We learn from the very start that Quoth is exceptionally bright. His mentor encourages him to go to university, tells his parents, like, this kid is a freaking genius. You need to make sure he gets into studying. I think he could be someone great. But his genius gets kind of shoved aside as he's just trying to survive. Even when he goes to university, he's kind of just always being scrappy because he doesn't have a lot of money, and that's something that is constantly worrying him. So he doesn't really get to expand on how smart he is, although we get to see little glimpses of it. He has a lot of things that he's good at, and he knows it. So this actually adds a really great flaw to his character because he's arrogant, he's overconfident, and he's very impatient. He's also really quick to act instead of thinking about the consequences, so we see him get in trouble a lot. But it also allows for him to have some very heroic moments in the book where you're like, yes! This makes him a great character because you know he's capable of really, really awesome things, but he makes really stupid decisions. So the whole book you're just like, come on, Quoth, like, do what we know you can do. So you really root for him to to realize his full potential. Another one of the main characters in the book is Denna, who is his love interest. She is a beautiful but very flaky character. Throughout the book, she's extremely mysterious, and we get to learn more about her upbringing as the story goes on. She's a character that is really shaped by her circumstances, and she may seem kind of cold, but that's because she's doing everything that she can to survive. Her flakiness, combined with Quoth's rash behavior, really creates a frustrating read, but still interesting. You know that they like each other and that they like each other's company, but neither of them really acts on it, and neither of them can really be true to that relationship because they both have other problems that are much bigger than any romance. To be honest, I really didn't enjoy Denna's character that much. I don't know if she's supposed to be written that way, but I didn't really connect with the love story at all. So let me know what you guys think about that, if you like her, what you thought about her. I'm interested to see where it goes in the next 2 books, so we'll see. The rest of the book is full of secondary characters. Quoth's parents, his mentor Ben, the friends and the enemies he makes at university, the teachers who love him, the teachers who hate him, the people in the town over who listen to his music. Then in present day, we have the chronicler, the people that come into his inn, and his apprentice Bast. If I tried to mention every secondary character in this book, we would literally be here for the next 2 hours. It's amazing how he can have so many characters, yet I can keep track of them all, and they all have very good, complex backgrounds and interesting arcs. Quoth struggles through a lot of problems throughout the story. There's a lot of good conflict. He doesn't have a lot of money, he is very young compared to the other students, so he has to prove himself a lot, and against his own arrogance, which causes people to either really like him or really dislike him. He's also very distracted by his crush on Denna, and like I said, you kind of want him to just realize his full potential while he's battling all these other things that are going on in his life. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. I thought it started out kind of slow. First, maybe 8 chapters, still in present day, were boring to me. It took me a while to get pulled into the story, but once he started telling the story of his childhood, I was sucked in. I couldn't put it down. I really loved the trooper angle and how that allows him to have all these weird skills that really end up helping him later in his life. I like that he's really capable, but somehow still the underdog. I also like the mystery of the magic system and how we know that there's a lot to it, but we're not really quite sure what. What I didn't like about this book is that although it's got this boundless writing that's so amazing and the way he weaves the story is just captivating, I felt that there were a lot of questions that were unanswered. And I know that there's 2 more books in this series, one of which isn't finished yet, but that doesn't mean you can't answer some questions for me that just apply to this part of the story. So I felt like I was kind of unsatisfied at the end. And as I was reading and I was getting closer and closer to the end of the book, I was like, crap, he's not going to tell me anything. I would definitely recommend this book to you if you enjoy fantasy. The prose is just so beautiful, and the way he describes things is so interesting. And it's really a character that you just want to kick some butt. And I'm hoping that in the next 2 books, we get to see a lot of that. Thank you guys for pushing me to finally read this. I finally did it. I was scared of the 700 pages, but it was a quick read for me once I really got into it. This book was on my TBR for the year to either stay on my bookshelf or get given away, and I think it's safe to say that The Name of the Wind has earned its spot on my bookshelf. Thank you guys for watching. Please make sure you comment and subscribe. Tweet at me. I'm always on Twitter letting you guys know what books I'm reading right now. Let me know what you thought about this book, what you thought about my opinions, what you thought about the plot, the characters. I'm very excited to talk about this. I know you guys are excited for me to read it, and now I can finally join in on your discussions. But don't spoil the next one for me. I haven't picked it up yet. All right. Have a glittery day. Bye-bye.